In the vast, bone-chilling expanse of the New Mexico desert on Christmas Eve 1887, a lone rancher named Jack Harlan rode his weary bay horse through swirling sands under a sky heavy with impending snow. The wind howled like damned souls, carrying whispers of death that made his skin crawl. Suddenly, his horse reared up, eyes wild with terror, nearly throwing him from the saddle. There, sprawled lifelessly against a jagged rock, lay a Chinese woman, her silk dress torn and bloodied, face pale as a ghost in the moonlight. Was she dead? Jack dismounted, heart pounding like a war drum, his Colt drawn instinctively. He knelt, feeling for a pulse, and her eyes snapped open, black voids filled with unspoken horrors that sent a shiver down his spine. In a voice rough as gravel, he muttered, "Come home with me, if you want." Little did he know, those words would unleash a nightmare of betrayal, bloodshed, and secrets that would stain the West forever. Jack Harlan was a man carved from the harsh frontier, 35 years old with scars from Indian skirmishes and a heart hardened by loss. 5 years earlier, Mexican bandits had raided his ranch, slaughtering his wife Mary in a hail of bullets while he was away herding cattle. Since then, he lived alone on his isolated spread, a ramshackle adobe cabin with a leaky roof and a corral holding just a handful of scraggly steers. Trust was a luxury he couldn't afford, the West had taught him that the hard way. Yet, as he lifted the frail woman onto his horse and rode back through the gathering storm, something stirred in him, a flicker of pity, or perhaps the ghost of loneliness begging for company. The woman stirred weakly during the ride, her body cold against his. She didn't speak, but her grip on his arm was desperate, like a drowning soul clutching driftwood. Snow began to fall in fat, silent flakes as they reached the cabin. Jack kicked open the door, the warmth from the dying fire a stark contrast to the frozen night outside. He laid her on his cot, wrapped her in his only blanket, and stoked the flames high. As the fire crackled, illuminating her delicate features, high cheekbones, almond eyes, he wondered about her story. Chinese folks were rare out here, most worked the railroads or mines back east, not wandering the desert like lost spirits. She woke with a gasp as midnight tolled on his old pocket watch, her eyes darting wildly. "No, please," she whispered in broken English, accent thick as Canton fog. Jack offered her water from a tin cup, his voice gentle despite his rough exterior. "Name's Jack. You're safe now." She hesitated, then murmured, "Mei Ling." Over the next hour, as the storm raged outside, she pieced together her tale in halting words. Sold by her impoverished family in China, shipped across the ocean to San Francisco, then bartered like cattle to a wealthy mine owner named Li Wei in the nearby Silver Hills. Li Wei was a tyrant, beating her for sport and keeping her locked in his mansion. She'd escaped 2 nights ago, stealing a horse and fleeing into the desert, but his men were close behind. Ruthless enforcers who'd kill anyone in their path. Jack listened, his jaw tightening. It reminded him too much of Mary's fate, innocence crushed by the lawless. He promised to protect her, though doubt gnawed at him. Was she telling the truth, or was this a trap set by claim jumpers? As Christmas morning dawned, the desert blanketed in white, Jack stepped out to chop wood. The air was crisp, silent, until a distant thunder of hooves shattered it. He rushed back inside to find Mei Ling at the window, face ashen. "They here." 5 riders crested the horizon, rifles glinting, faces masked by bandanas. Jack barred the door, loaded his Winchester and shotgun. "Stay low," he barked. Mei Ling grabbed a kitchen knife, her eyes fierce. The lead rider shouted in a guttural mix of Chinese and Spanish, "Give us the woman, gringo, or burn." Bullets splintered the doorframe as Jack fired back, dropping one rider in a spray of blood that stained the snow red. The attackers circled, torching the corral to flush them out. Flames leaped high, horses screaming in panic. Mei Ling surprised Jack by leaning out a window and hurling the knife. It embedded in another's throat, the man gurgling as he fell. "How'd you?" Jack started, but a bullet grazed his arm, burning like fire. They had to run. Bursting from the back, they mounted Relampago and galloped into the storm, pursuers hot on their trail. A shot felled the horse mid-stride, sending them tumbling into a ravine. Jack hit hard, ribs cracking, but he rolled up firing, killing another. Mei Ling vanished into the rocks, then reappeared like a shadow, snapping the neck of a fourth with a precise twist that left Jack stunned. Only the leader remained, Li Wei himself, dismounted now, pistol aimed at Jack's head. "She belongs to me," he snarled. In that frozen moment, Mei Ling leaped from above, driving her heel into Li Wei's wrist. The gun flew. They grappled in the snow, Mei Ling moving with lethal grace, dodging punches, striking pressure points that made the big man howl. Jack, dazed, grabbed the dropped pistol and fired, the bullet tearing through Li Wei's chest. The mine owner collapsed, blood bubbling from his lips, eyes wide in shock. Silence fell, broken only by the wind. Mei Ling knelt by Jack, tearing cloth for a bandage. "You, fight like a demon," he gasped. She smiled faintly. "Father teach me in China. Warrior ways." But as she helped him stand, she pulled a crumpled map from her dress. "Li Wei's secret. Gold cache in old mine. We take, start new." Greed sparked in Jack's eyes despite the pain. They buried the bodies shallowly, salvaged what they could from the smoldering ranch, and rode a stolen horse toward the mountains. The map led to an abandoned shaft in the Gila Range, whispers of cursed ground where miners had died in cave-ins years ago. As night fell again, they entered the dark maw, lantern flickering. The air grew stale, timbers creaking ominously. Deeper in, they found it, a chamber stacked with crates of gold bars, stolen from stagecoaches Li Wei had ambushed. Jack hooped, filling saddlebags. But echoes of footsteps froze them. One of Li Wei's men had survived the fight, trailing them like a vengeful ghost. He emerged from the shadows, dynamite fuse lit. "Gold's mine now." The explosion rocked the tunnel as they fled, rocks cascading. They burst out just in time, the entrance sealing behind, but the bandit was buried alive, his screams cut short. Panting under the stars, gold secure, Jack pulled Mei Ling close. But she whispered a darker truth: Li Wei wasn't just her abuser. He was her half-brother, twisted by opium trade, and she'd come to America not as a bride, but to assassinate him for family honor. Jack reeled. Had she used him as bait? Before he could accuse, distant lanterns bobbed, the sheriff from Silver City, drawn by smoke from the ranch fire. "What's this carnage?" the lawman demanded, eyeing the gold. Corrupt as they came, he demanded half. Jack refused. Guns blazed in the night, sheriff dead, but not before winging Mei Ling's leg. Now fugitives, they fled south, crossing into Arizona territory, wounds festering, paranoia mounting. Days blurred into a feverish chase. They holed up in a ghost town, Mei Ling using ancient herbs to heal them. Jack confessed his own secret: Mary's killers weren't random bandits, one was a former partner who'd betrayed him over a claim. Was it coincidence Li Wei's gang included similar men? Mei Ling's eyes darkened. "Fate binds us." But in a saloon in Tombstone, a stranger recognized Jack from wanted posters. A bar fight erupted, fists, bottles, a knife slashing Jack's cheek. They escaped, but Mei Ling dropped a locket in the chaos. Inside, a photo of her with Li Wei, smiling like lovers. Betrayal hit Jack like a gut punch. "You loved him," he demanded in their hideout. She shook her head. "No. But I carry his child." The shock nearly broke him. "Pregnant with the monster's heir," Mei Ling explained. Forced upon her, but she'd kill to protect it, and Jack, if he stayed. Torn, he chose to ride on, deeper into danger. Apaches ambushed them on the trail, arrows whistling. Jack shot too, but Brave dragged Mei Ling off. He pursued alone, finding their camp at dawn. In a bloody raid, he freed her, scalping the chief in rage. But Mei Ling was changed, fiercer, whispering of visions from her ancestors urging revenge on all who'd wronged her people. They reached Mexico, crossing the border under gunfire from pursuing rangers. In Sonora's dusty pueblos, they posed as husband and wife, gold buying silence. But whispers followed. A bounty hunter claimed Mei Ling was no victim, but a notorious smuggler queen from San Francisco's Tong Wars. Jack confronted her in a moonlit cantina. Truth, now. She laughed bitterly. I am all they say, and more. Li Wei stole my empire. You were my tool to reclaim it. Knife to his throat, she hesitated. Love? Or calculation? A patron burst in, Li Wei's secret son from another woman, seeking vengeance. Gunfight shattered the night, tables flipped, tequila spilling like blood. Jack killed the boy, but took a bullet to the shoulder. Fleeing again, they delved into the Sierra Madre, gold hidden in caves. Mei Ling gave birth in a storm-swept shack, a boy with Jack's eyes. No, wait, Li Wei's. Doubt festered. Years passed in hiding, ranching under false names. But one Christmas Eve, a knock at the door. The escaped bandit from the mine, scarred and mad, dynamite strapped to his chest. Remember me? He ignited the fuse. Jack tackled him outside, explosion ripping the night, sacrificing himself. No, Mei Ling pushed Jack aside, taking the blast. Dying in his arms, she whispered, the child, ours. I lied to protect you. Jack, shattered, raised the boy alone, but the West's shadows never lifted. Legends grew of the rancher and his ghost bride, haunting the deserts where it all began. As the dust settled from the border crossing, Jack and Mei Ling rode into the parched heart of Sonora, the sun beating down like a hammer on an anvil. Their horses were lathered, wounds throbbing from the rangers' parting shots. They found refuge in a small adobe village called San Miguel, where the locals spoke in hushed Spanish and eyed strangers with suspicion. Jack bartered a gold coin for a room at the inn, a dingy place with scorpions scuttling across the floor. Mei Ling collapsed on the straw mattress, her legs swollen and hot to the touch. Fever coming, she murmured, her skin clammy. Jack fetched a local curandra, an old woman with wrinkled skin and eyes like polished obsidian. She brewed a poultice of herbs and chanted prayers to the Virgin, but whispered to Jack, this woman carries darkness. Ghosts cling to her. He dismissed it as superstition, but that night, Mei Ling raved in her sleep, speaking in Chinese of blood debts and ancient curses. Jack sat by her side, wiping her brow, his mind racing. The locket's photo haunted him, had she played him from the start. When she woke at dawn, lucid but weak, he pressed her. The truth about Li Wei. All of it. She sighed, eyes distant. He was not my brother. My lover, once. We built an empire smuggling opium from China through the mines. But he betrayed me, tried to kill me when I discovered he was selling to rivals. The abuse was his way of controlling me. I escaped to find an ally. You. Jack's fist clenched. And the child? Yours, perhaps. Or his. Does it matter in this hell? It did to him. Rage boiled, but love, or what he thought was love, held him back. They stayed in San Miguel a week, healing, but word spread of gringos with gold. Banditos attacked at midnight, bursting into the room with machetes gleaming. Jack shot 3, Mei Ling fighting like a tigress, breaking arms with kicks he'd never seen. They fled on stolen mules, leaving bodies behind. Deeper into Mexico, they traversed canyons where eagles screamed overhead. Mei Ling taught Jack bits of her fighting art, kung fu, she called it, quick strikes that could fell a man twice his size. In return, he showed her how to track and shoot like a frontiersman. Bonded by survival, they shared stories around campfires. Jack spoke of his youth in Texas, running from the law after a bar brawl gone wrong. Mei Ling recounted Shanghai's opium dens, where she'd risen from street orphan to queen. But tension simmered. Jack caught her staring at the horizon, as if expecting pursuers. In Chihuahua City, they sold some gold for supplies, but a saloon keeper recognized Mei Ling from wanted posters smuggled from California. La Viuda Negra, he called her, the Black Widow, killer of husbands for their fortunes. A mob formed, torches lit. They barely escaped, galloping into the night, but Jack's trust cracked. "Is it true?" he demanded in a cave hideout. She nodded. "3 husbands, all abusers. I took what was mine." Shocked, he drew his gun, but couldn't pull the trigger. Instead, they made love fiercely, passion born of desperation. Months passed. Mei Ling's belly swelled with child. They bought a small rancho in the Sierras, planting corn and raising goats. Peace seemed possible, but on a stormy night, a rider arrived, a U.S. Marshal who'd crossed the border illegally, bounty in hand. "You're wanted for murder, Harlan. And her for smuggling." Gunfight in the rain, Marshal dead, but not before revealing a letter from Li Wei's estate. Mei Ling had forged it, framing Jack for crimes to force his loyalty. Betrayed again, Jack confronted her. "Why?" "To bind you to me. Love is chains in the West." He left her that night, riding north alone, heart in tatters. But guilt pulled him back. Finding the rancho burning, Mei Ling captured by Li Wei's surviving lieutenants seeking the gold's location. Jack infiltrated their camp, a daring rescue with knives and stealth. Freed, she went into labor amid the chaos. The baby boy cried into the world as bullets flew. They fled to a mission, priests hiding them. The child had Jack's blue eyes, his, not Li Wei's. Relief washed over him, but Mei Ling confessed the final shock: she had poisoned Li Wei long before, using Jack as alibi. "I am monster," she said. Jack forgave, or tried. Years later, the boy grew strong, but the past caught up. A gang led by Mary's killer, alive, allied with Li Wei's remnants, attacked the rancho. Epic showdown, Jack and Mei Ling fighting back to back, the boy hidden. Bodies piled, but Mary's killer held Mei Ling hostage. "Choose, rancher, her or the truth. She hired me to kill your wife, to free you for her plans. Lie or truth?" Jack shot him dead, but the doubt lingered. Mei Ling denied it, but her eyes held secrets. In the end, they vanished deeper into Mexico, legends in the making. Jack, Mei Ling, and their son lived as ghosts, always watching the horizon. Every Christmas Eve, Jack whispered those fateful words, a reminder of love's dangerous edge. The West swallowed their story, but the shocks echoed eternal.